Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Toolbox Talk with She Masters. My name is Masego Zululikoe, your host for She Masters Toolbox Talk. And today we are bringing you great news. We are bringing you great things as usual. This is Toolbox Talk, where we are discussing issues of health and safety regarding all the industries, anywhere where you are, whoever you are. Health and safety is your responsibility, is my responsibility. So today on Toolbox Talk, we are going to be going deep into discussing issues of health and safety, like we say. And as you may know, as you always do, you just need to do what? You just need to invite as many friends as you can, start watch parties wherever you are. Whatever comment that you have, put it down there on the chat box and we shall address it. This is Toolbox Talk with She Masters, and it's a Tuesday where we are discussing issues of health and safety. Before we go on, I just like to introduce our topic for today. You may be very aware that, in this time of 2020, this year of 2020, businesses have been faced with so many challenges across the world, including Botswana. Changes where businesses have been having to deal with, a different way
Businesses
of
have been faced with
things.
so many challenges across the world, including
Sound, please.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. Like I've been saying, today we are going to be discussing on the topic how businesses can gain competitiveness using the implementation of the standard of occupational health and safety, which is the ISO 45001. And like we were saying, the businesses around the world and including Botswana have been faced with challenges, to ensure that they change the way they have been operating daily and to ensure that they continue to make sure that the working environment continues to be safe for the staff and also for the visitors coming into their workplaces. And also, the other part is that they have to ensure that the products and services that they provide continue to be of good quality. But now, having this in mind, what is it that the businesses can do to make sure that they stay competitive, making sure that the workplaces are safe? So, how does the occupational health and safety standard of ISO 45001 coming in place, and how is it going to help the businesses to leverage and to gain competitiveness? So this is where we have you, Mr. Solomon from Botswana Bureau of Standard, to discuss with us this issue and to explain to Botswana how they can benefit from this. So I welcome you once again to She Masters Toolbox Talk, and I'd like to welcome you to stage to just introduce yourself, your background, and also introduce what BOPS is all about to Botswana. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Jimmy Solomon. As Mazulu Lekwe has said, I'm working for Botswana Bureau of Standards as a facilitator and auditor for management systems. At present moment, Botswana Bureau of Standards is offering the following management system. ISO 9000 2015, that is quality management. ISO 14001 2015, that is environmental management systems, and ISO 45001 2018, that is on occupational health and safety. We certify against the standard ISO 9001 2015 at the present moment. And for other management system standards, we only train, we offer training. So hopefully in the future, we'll certify those standards. Beside that, I train tools for Six Sigma, such as root cause, corrective action, process management. These are some of the tools that I train. So let's now talk about the standard. Or before we talk about the standard, other services that are provided by Botswana Bureau of Standards is the development of product standards and management system standards. We have product standards and management system standards. An example of product standards will be a standard for bottled water or borehole water. A management system standard, an example is what we are talking about today, or those I've just mentioned that we offer the training. Beside development of standards, we regulate, we have the Department for Metrology, where we regulate measurements. We have trade metrology, and we have the metrology where we calibrate and verify measurements in industries, so that whatever you are producing, wherever you are getting service, when you are told something is of a certain measure, for example, 1 kg, you know it's really 1 kg that is traceable to international standards. Or when you buy fuel, 20 liters, you know it is the 20 liters that is traceable to international standards. We offer the services for testing different kinds of products such as textile, chemistry, microbiology, civil, mechanical engineering. These are some of the things that we test. For example, occupational health will be, we test, for example, materials that are used to produce PPE, such as your overalls. These are some of the services that we provide. And we regulate certain products, such as we call them pulse. Common language is beans. These are some of the examples that they are safe. Some of the tests that we do, we test things such as aflatoxins, which long term can be hazardous to your health. So we make sure that those kind of things don't end up, a lunch or a dinner table. Let's continue. ladies and gentlemen, now talk about the standard ISO 45001 2018. Yeah.
Yes. Introduce that one to us. Now that we are here now, we want our main interest in to understand more about what ISO 45001 is all about. Please take us through that one.
Thank you very much. ISO 45001 2018 is a occupational health and safety standard that was published in 2018, March 2018. It was developed by a technical committee called TC283. Usually, ISO have got different technical committees. Those who have interacted with BOPs, they know about technical committees, which are involved in development of different kinds of standards. So the same thing, ISO have the same setup, and the technical committee that is involved in the development of this standard is TC283. So this standard was developed so that to standardize processes in an organization whereby we can control occupational occupational health and safety risks and improve performance of the occupational health and safety, so that we can see safety, occupational health and safety growing in industries or in organizations. So this standard was developed with other standards which are still under development. Remember, when ISO developed a standard, it developed it as a family. So, and this family is given a name, and here the name is 45,001. So there are others which are still under development, such as ISO 45,002, which is guidelines for implementation of the standards that we are talking about today. And we have ISO 45,003, which is the standard for psychological health and safety, because ladies and gentlemen, psychosocial risks are a problem in many work environments. So this standard will give you guidelines. But I would like to emphasize that it is still under development, and we have ISO 45,004, that is guidelines on performance and evaluation. That is still under development. Then we have ISO PAS 45,005 2020. This standard was published last year due to the pandemic that we have, the COVID-19. So this standard it just gives guidelines for safety at work, safe working environment during the COVID-19. So the standard was first tracked and published in 2018 to try to address this pandemic that we have. So it try to protect worker-related and safety to the risk of COVID-19. So then we continue, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if there are comments.
Yes, yes, sir. Before we go forth, so you are talking about the 45,001 standard, as in it focuses mainly on the risk management part of it, as in terms of health and safety is concerned. So before we move on, I just want to ask you, we had the standard, the 18,001 before. I just want to understand, what is the difference? What is it that we are bringing in with the 45,001 that is different from the 18,001? What is the difference? And we're looking at companies, let's say like we're looking at companies who've already implemented the 18,001 standard and want to transit to the 45,001. What is in place there for them? What are they supposed to do? And what does that mean?
Okay. Thank you very much, Masero, for the question. The key difference between 18,001 and 45,001. The first thing we have to understand that OSHA's 18,001, it is not ISO 18,001, it is OSHA's 18,001.
Watchers. Mm,
Yeah, which means it is not an ISO standard. It is actually a British standard.
mm,
So, because this belong to a certain country, that is why ISO decided to adopt that standard, because the world can benefit better.
mm,
It becomes an ISO standard. Remember, many of the standards originate from other countries which have developed those standards. For a good example is ISO 31001, that is a risk management standard, which originate from Australia. Then it was adopted by ISO, obviously by adding other things, elements in it, so that the world can benefit in it. So that is the first key difference for this 18,001 and ISO 45,001. So at the development stage, ISO 45,001 introduced the other elements in that standard, because in 18,001, the responsibility of this standard, you had to appoint a safety officer or committee. But for the new standard, instead of doing that, they put responsibility of occupational health and safety to the leadership of the organization or the top management of the organization. So they are the ones who are responsible on how this standard is going to be
mm,
implemented and account for occupational health and safety. The top management can delegate, but the ultimate responsibility is with the top management. Furthermore, the other key difference that you can pick in that standard is workers' involvement. So, in this, the standard ISO 45,001, the standard explicitly state that workers, where organization leadership uh, has to show commitment, there should be workers' participation. In other ways, workers and leadership work together in implementation of occupational health and safety in the organization.
mm,
The other key difference that you can pick is 18,001 was more reactive. Uh, in other ways, how they dealt with hazards, they they just it just brought hazard controls. But when you talk about the ISO 45,001, it brought a system whereby there is hazard identification and risk evaluation. So doing that, it helped in making organization to be proactive when it comes to occupational health and safety.
mm,
And then there's the other difference that you can identify in that standard is 18,001. It followed the guidelines that I'll avoid maybe technical words, maybe for those who are aware of this ISO Guide 83. But in simpler terms, I'll say it followed, but the new standard followed what you call Annex SL3. The way it is arranged uh, just like other management systems like ISO 9001, ISO 22,000, ISO 14,001. The reason is simply to make it easier to implement in an organization, because they are not different in the way they are arranged or they are structured. Because most of the organizations that implement this management system will find that already they have 9,001, they are bringing in a 45,001. Already they have 14,001, they are bringing in a 45,001. So the standards, they can work together, they complement each other easily. So that is the difference, the main difference that you can pick in these new standards.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. This is Toolbox Talk with S.H.E Masters, where we are discussing a topic which says how businesses can get precedence by implementing the ISO 45001 standard of occupational health and safety. And with me, I have Bob's in the house. I have Mr. Jimmy Solomon, who is taking us through, who is taking the businesses through to say, this is how we can help you. This is how you can implement this standard and stay on the edge of competitiveness as a business. Remember, the year 2020 was not a good year for business world across the world and including Botswana. So what is it that the health and safety, industry can bring in so that it can make the companies competitive, and also ensuring compliance and ensuring that, staff and visitors are continue to be safe in the environment? This is Toolbox Talk with Tea Masters. Feel free to start watch parties. Feel free to invite as many people as you can and continue to share and also put down your comments. For I have Mr. Jimmy Solomon, who is the expert in this area and taking us through the standard. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. We continue with our discussion. So we have mentioned we have discussed what 45,001 of 2018 is all about, and also the difference between the OSHA's 18,000 and also the 45,001. Now let us go deep into now, like we say, we want to understand how businesses can now implement this, and also what are the benefits of implementing this standard, and how can Bobs come in and assist. You've mentioned also that you only at the current moment do trainings for this standard. Can you please take us through all the points that we have asked there, please, sir? Thank you.
Can I take you through what can I?
Yes, please. We need to understand now that we understand the what ISO 45,001 is all about, and how it's different from the 18,000, the OSHA's 18,000. Now we want to understand now, how can businesses now implement the standard within their business, within their organizations, and also what are the benefits of doing that?
Thank you, Marcelo. Let me start with the benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, standards, they are very important for business people because they make you marketable. If you understand standards, if for example, you're going to you produce a product for different markets, we have the opportunities for AGOA. You have opportunities in the Middle East. You have opportunities in Africa. These places, they've got different requirements. A simple requirement will be measurements. If you go into the American market, they won't be measuring whatever they're selling in the common units that we use here. For example, the metric units, they'll be using the imperial units. So these are the things that you need to understand. That is why we encourage people to use standards, to partner with BOPs in their businesses. And when you talk about this standard, customers, they are interested in knowing how the product was produced. Uh, were there injuries? Were there people were killed during production and so forth? And these things might work against you if you are a business person. So ISO 45001 puts you in a position for people around. If you talk about ISO, you are talking about international standard. And if you have the mark, the certificate, people have trust on your business. So it will increase trust in different stakeholders in the country and internationally. And it will help you again to be a master in your businesses because it uses systems that have been tested around the world to be effective in running businesses. And it brings in the culture of consistency, whereby we always talk about process approach and process consistency. This brings in efficiency, and those who are in business, they know the importance of efficiency. That will give you an upper hand in business. And obviously, if you are going to work in a way that there are no injuries and people work in a safe working environment, obviously you will end up, the insurance premiums will be lowered. You won't always be having people, injuries and people claiming insurance benefits. And then the other one thing, it improves individuals' safety in an organization. People understand safety at an individual level, which then spread to what? To the whole organization. And we should know that injuries might even lead to even property damage. So it will protect your organization. And furthermore, it gives managers, the leaders in an organization, an effective system of oversight of how things are operating, how safe are people in the organization. Because most of the time, safety might sometimes, if it is not taken seriously, it becomes as an afterthought. We get so busy that we are not even aware that we are putting ourselves in danger, putting people uh, where they can be injured. So the management system, the benefit is that it gives top management a third eye for them to be able to see when it comes to occupational health and safety. And if you go further, you certify against this standard. The benefits will be, for example, it will improve the process of hazard identification and risk assessment. And if it becomes part and parcel of how you operate your organization, generally you'll be able to manage hazards effectively. And then again, it will reduce downtime due to attending incidents in the organization, because any incident will take time of production. So if you put these measures in place, it will put your organization on the safe side. And then the other thing, it encourages or enhances the involvement of leadership and workers' participation when it comes to occupational health and safety, because we don't want a situation whereby it becomes somebody's baby. it should be everyone's baby in the organization. That are the benefits of
Those are the benefits of implementing the standard.
implementing the standard.
Now we are talking to people out there, businesses out there, small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, Mr. Solomon, who can really implement this standard. Is it like, is there a category, or is it set for particular kind of businesses in terms of size or whatever, or anybody can implement it or what?
Okay, thank you for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to implementation of any management system, any organization can implement a occupational health, a management system. Whether it is a 5-people organization, your own company, a consultancy, you can implement a management system. Up to huge organizations employing about 4,000, they can implement a management system. So ISO 45001 can be implemented by any organization if they find it adding value in their business. And how you implement it, the first step, ladies and gentlemen, will start by you understanding a management system and ISO 45001, and then going through a gap analysis, because some of the processes for occupational health and safety, because of human nature, you find that they are already there in your organization. Maybe you are not aware of them. So the gap analysis will show you where you have processes and where there are gaps. And this is reinforced by now you understand what is an occupational health and safety ISO 45001. Then the next step will involve engaging the different stakeholders, because these standards, they even engages you when it comes to understanding the interested parties, whether it might be the legislations, whether it might be other requirements like insurances when it comes to occupational health and safety, even the local authority. These are some of the things that when you implement occupational health and safety, a simple thing might be you have a building. What are the features when it comes to fire suppressions? And these kind of things. If you have an incident which might involve fire, how long does it take for the fire department to reach your premises? Do you have proper hydrants? These are the things that the stakeholder engagements that you are talking about. Then you'll prioritize, as you know, in project management, what comes first, or you'll go according to the plan of how you're going to implement it. Then you implement the management system, and the implementation of the management system will continue with what you call continual improvement, because you always have to improve your management system. That is the culture of management systems.
Wow. That's a mouthful. So those are the steps on how to actually implement the system. And like you said, it also comes down to, continual improvement. It's a process. So there has to be continual improvement, like you're saying. So this is Toolbox Talk, ladies and gentlemen. This is Toolbox Talk with She Masters. And with me, I have Mr. Jimmy Solomon from Botswana Bureau of Standard, which is a powerhouse when it talks to standardizations in our country. They provide standards, they provide trainings for standards, and also, look at into helping organizations to actually certify their products and so forth. So Bobs is here to explain to us and to take us through the ISO standard, which is international, the ISO standard for occupational health and safety, which is the 45001 of 2018. He's taking us through to understand how businesses, whether small, medium, or large, can actually implement this to ensure that they stay on the competitive edge of the market. Remember, the year has been not good for the businesses. So what is it that the business can do to ensure that they continue to be competitive and to ensure business continuity? This is what Bobs is telling us today, and this is what is brought to you by She Masters. We go on further into our discussions. We've mentioned how now business can implement the standard. Now, Mr. Solomon, I just want us to take you to take us through now. We have been in the situation of COVID, and you have also mentioned that within the 45,001 standard, there are other standards that are coming up as well. And the one that has been released now is also the one that is actually looking at, the COVID crisis as we have been, impacted. Can you please take us through now in terms of COVID now? How are the business coping? What are the challenges? And also, what is it that the standards are going to actually address when it comes to crisis like this, in also preparation for the other crisis that could be coming in future?
Okay, thank you for the question.
Mm,
Uh, the the standards, ladies and gentlemen, introduces the concept of risk management, and the core of ISO 45001 is clause 6,
mm,
which actually emphasizes um, actions to address risk and opportunities, because the standard don't only talk about risks. They say you look at risks at the same time, what are the opportunities, which actually addresses what you are talking about, the part, yeah, business continuity,
mm,
because we don't want to find ourselves stuck because there was a crisis and our business closing down. So with using this standard, ladies and gentlemen, you will be in a better position to improve and to understand the way you can use risk management so that your businesses can be resilient. And then to add on that, when I introduced uh, when I started with the talk, I mentioned that standards usually they are family. Usually we call them a series, and this series ISO 45,000. ISO 45,000. I've listed a number of standards, and most of them are still under development because this is a new standard. And I mentioned that ISO, due to the pandemic, decided to fast track the production of the standard ISO 45005
mm,
2020, which was published last year in reaction to the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And this standard, ladies and gentlemen, its title says general guidelines for safe working during COVID-19 pandemic. So it simply gives you guidelines. It is not a standard for certification. It will give organizations guidelines on how they can protect, how to manage the risk and protect workers against at work when it comes to occupational, when it comes to COVID and other risks that are associated with COVID. And this standard is for organizations of all sizes. Like you asked the question that what size an organization should be. All sizes, whether it's a small organization to very big sectors or organizations. So for the organization that were operating during the pandemic, there are those who, because of the way they are supposed to operate during the pandemic. So it will give them guidelines on how to survive in such trying times. Those that are resuming, some had to close and they will be resuming after the pandemic. So it will give you guidelines on that. In some instances, we had to evacuate premises so that after it was discovered that there were infections, and then people had to reoccupy the places. So the standard will guide you on that. And those who are opening organizations for the first time, again, they can benefit from that standard. It will give you guidelines on how to deal with risks that are associated with COVID-19 pandemic.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon, for that elaborative, explanation of the standard and so forth. As we've been asking the question, now moving forward, here's an organization that is trying to implement, or that is looking into implementing the standard. We only don't implement by month or by actions. There should be documentation in place to show of all the steps that you are taking through. Can you please take us through the steps that are necessary for the standard that we need to when we implement the standard documentation?
Okay, thank you. Implementing a management system requires certain documentation to be used. ISO, when it was developing these new standards, one of the things that they wanted to avoid is a lot of documentation, because usually organizations will have their own documents. So they didn't want to have a situation whereby they're going to bring more burden to organizations with more documentation. But there are certain documentation that are used, are required by the standard. And these documents, I'll explain how they are. According to a standard, the way they talk about document, they say it is a what you call documented information. Documented information. And when you talk about documented information, you talk about a document that is controlled. And how a document is controlled, that one we'll talk about it when you come for the courses with Botswana Bureau of Standards. And then we have documents that we say maintained documented information and retained documented information. In simpler terms, ladies and gentlemen, a maintained documented information will simply mean a document, and then something that will provide you information. And then a retained documented information, it will be records that are generated by what you are doing, by implementing your process. So they are mandatory documents that are required when you implement ISO 45001. The first document, the maintained documented information, is the scope of OSHA's management system. the scope of OSHA's management system. I'm specifically emphasizing that point of OSHA's management system because any standard that you're going to come across will have a scope. We'll start with a scope. So I don't want people to confuse the scope of a standard and the scope of a management system. So the scope of OSHA's management system, that is the scope of your system. Then there is the OSHA's policy. The OSHA's policy, again, that is a mandatory document that is required by the standard. Responsibilities and authorities within the OSHA's management system. OSHA's processes for addressing risks and opportunities. OSHA's processes for addressing risk and opportunities. That is another mandatory document that is required. Methodology and criteria for assessment of OSHA's risk. The method that you are going to use for assessing your risks, and then the OSHA's objectives. What do you want to achieve when it comes to occupational health and safety? Your objectives. These are other mandatory documents that we have to see. And then we have the document for emergency preparedness and response. Because if you're going to implement a management system, you have to come up with a plan of how you're going to deal with emergency, even in case there's an emergency in an organization. Looking at the hazard that you have identified and how are you going to respond to such a situation. And your plan will involve even, for example, actually doing drills and checking how you are responding. And most of the time, these drills, you have to do them when it is actually busy in the organization. For example, during when people are starting to work, when people have not yet cycled, they don't know what is happening. You want to see the reality of how things will be. Then the records that are generated, that is a retained documented information that are required by the standard. The first one is the OSHA's risks and opportunities, addressing them. How you're going to address those OSHA's risks and opportunities. And then the other thing is the legal and other requirements, the legal and other requirements. So when you talk about legal and other requirements, these are documents that, for example, the acts, government acts, like, for example, the Factories Act, and then what we want is their requirement. What does it require? For example, organization, you are using a crane or hosting cables. What are the requirements in that act? We have to be clear about that. Evidence of competency, whether people are competent in whatever they are doing when it comes to occupational health and safety. Evidence of communication. Communication is very important in an organization. So there is a prescribed communication that has to be there in an organization. The standard requires that. So you want evidence to show that you are actually doing that. Plans for responding to potential emergency situations. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to have a plan for responding to occupational health and to emergency situations. So we want evidence to be able to see that what you have in plan, is it what is really happening? Results on monitoring, measuring, analysis, and performance of a management system. That will be similar to a dashboard that shows performance of different measures when it comes to occupational health and safety. Records about maintenance of measuring instruments. If you have instruments that you are using for measuring different aspects of occupational health and safety, want evidence that the instruments have been calibrated, have been verified, and they are maintained. And then records about compliance to evaluation results. For example, compliance to legal and other requirements. We have to be up to date because legal requirements or other requirements might always be updated. So we want evidence to show that you are actually monitoring a legal requirement and other requirements and updating if there is any change that has been made in the legal requirement. For example, last year there was the amendment of the Public Health Act, which again you have to show evidence that you are aware of it and its requirements, you are aware of that. Internal audit program, that is another record to show how you're going to conduct your audit in an organization. And then the audit reports, the management review meetings, those are the minutes of management review meeting. Records about incidents or non-conformities that are there in the organization. And then the records about how did you deal with those incidents which might involve investigations and non-conformities which might involve corrective actions. So we want to see how did you conduct the corrective action, and the corrective action should be risk-based corrective risk-based corrective action, and then evidence to show that the management system is always or continually improving. So these are the documents that are required by the standard as mandatory.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon, for that. Now, the question that I'm also getting here is that, when we look at integration, before we round up, when you talk about this standard, is it a standalone standard, or is it a standard that that can be actually, integrated within the business system of an organization? It looks like it could be something there, or maybe some people could fear to say that, okay, it's going to be extra work or something like that. Is it something that can be easily integrated within the management, like the business management system of an organization?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, so this management system, ladies and gentlemen, it can be integrated into other management system. Like when we were discussing through mid discussion, I've mentioned that this standard are usually designed using the annex SL, whereby they have the same structure. You will find that the requirement that is in clause 4 requires that you understand the context of the organization. So if you are implementing ISO 45001 and ISO 9001, so you'll be doing the same activity of understanding the context of the organization. So they are very easy to integrate because they complement each other.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Ms. Solomon. This is Toolbox Talk, ladies and gentlemen, with S.H.E Masters, and we are about to round up. And I'd like to appreciate everybody who has joined us today. Whether you are watching live or you're going to be watching this as a recap, please ensure that you tune in every Tuesday at this time at 11 o'clock or at 6 p.m. to get more insight, to get more understanding of what health and safety issues are there in our country and across the world, as we bring them to you through Toolbox Talk with S.H.E Masters. This program, we bring prominent people like Mr. Jimmy Solomon, who are experts in their specific areas, to come and share with us their ideas, their thoughts, and also their experiences and what they have been, training other people, so that they can share them to the nation and help them implement or get up to date with all the information that lies within the health and safety, industry. This is Toolbox Talk with S.H.E Masters, and I'm your host, Master Zululokwe, and with me tonight, I had Mr. Jimmy Solomon from Botswana Bureau of Standards. Mr. Solomon, I really like to appreciate you for your participation in our show today. But before we round up, I just want to give you the opportunity to actually give us a word of advice, or give Botswana out there a word of advice, whatever that you can want to conclude on, and let us know again now. Now, Now that you are from Bob's, where does Bob's come in? What do we come? What do we get from you? Where do we come in? How do we come to Bob's now? In conclusion, thank you.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you that Botswana Bureau of Standards supposed to be your business partner when you are doing your business in different management systems, product standards, and standards are very, very important when you are in business so that your products can be relevant in the business world. Bob, as a custodian of the standards in Botswana, both local standards and international standards. If you need any service concerning any standard of a product or a management system, feel free to contact us. We have Facebook contacts, which is convenient for many people. We have our numbers, which are there in the website. People can contact us through those so that we can be a partner. For example, if you're going to implement this management system, ISO 45001 will be a good partner when it comes to training and understanding of this management system until your certification. And I would like to emphasize, ladies and gentlemen, at present moment, BOPS is not certifying this standard ISO 45001. But if you want to develop a management system, will be a good partner when it comes to understanding this standard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. Thank you very much for actually acknowledging our invitation, and we hope again that we will have you again on board, and to discuss even more further on the issues of health and safety, as much as the standards are concerned with. Thank you very much, Leka Mosorre.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with me tonight I had Mr. Jimmy Solomon from Botswana Bureau of Standards, who was actually explaining to us, taking us through our topic, which says how businesses can get precedence by implementing ISO 45001 of 2018 Occupational Health and Safety Standard. And with me, I had the privilege to say thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. Thank you very much, Bobs, for actually acknowledging our invitation. This is Toolbox Talk with S.H.E Masters, and I just want to take this opportunity to say to you, like Mr. Solomon has said, Bobs is an organization that is there for you to help you out if you want to implement the standards, and also to actually understand the standards, and also to see how you can implement them in your organization. They do trainings. They also do certification of other products there. Please check them on their website, check on their Facebook page to get more information from them. And here at S.H.E Masters, we do provide you with trainings as pertaining to health and safety, and also healthcare. Please do check our website, check our flyers, check our team around Gaborone, Botswana there to get more information about our products and services. Toolbox Talk brings you information on health and safety matters across Botswana and the world. We bring you up-to-date information. Therefore, if you want to be part of this show, please feel free to send us a WhatsApp, email, or even call us, and we shall be pleased to have you on our show. From me, Masoko Zololokoe, and the S.H.E Masters team, the Bob's team, we would like to appreciate you for your presence. Feel free to even ask more questions even further. From me and the rest of the team, thank you very much for attending our presentation today, and we look to see you again next Tuesday. Thank you. Bye.